welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah. What are we going to talk about today, Sarah?
Okay, one of our most popular videos was on rage. So I'm thinking maybe we should do a few more videos on anger, resentment, feelings of rage. I don't know, do codependents and addicts have issues with anger? I think we do.
All right, so
okay, go ahead.
Today we're gonna talk about how we have a right to be angry with the people we love. It's part of the human bill of rights for each person.
Yes.
What are the pitfalls when it comes to anger, Sarah?
Well, I think we're going to discuss this. We were talking earlier about very often people respond with extremes, right? So we're going to try to build some middle ground with anger. So either someone acts out, screams, yells, has a really volatile response on one side.
Or they suppress it.
Or a lot of times we repress it, it scares us. You know, I see this at meetings often. I didn't think I was angry, and then I had 396 resentments. So codependents especially can just, it's fine.
I'm not angry.
It's fine.
I'm fine.
It's fine.
I'm not angry. It didn't bother me.
It's fine. I'm fine.
And next thing you know, like rage is oozing from their pores.
Or you're shooting heroin, or snorting cocaine, or guzzling six-packs. So very, very important in codependency recovery to look at this, because it's really, I say in the book, dismissing these feelings can come out in all kinds of other ways. So Finn, what do we need to do when we experience anger? When we feel anger towards someone we love?
Because I've done some work on myself, I know that most of my anger stems from fear. So I have a fear that gets triggered, and then I feel angry.
Yes.
And, you know, there are things that people do that, like, elicit me to feel angry. I mean, I
course.
start feeling angry, like, especially if somebody's not doing what I think they should, or they do something that I perceive hurts me, like, I'm angry. Like, why do they have to do that? Because I don't want anyone else's actions interfering with my 72 and sunny.
Right.
But, so for me, it's notice what I'm feeling, and remember that feelings aren't facts. And then the other thing I do is I look at what it triggered in me. I actually was on the phone with Sarah yesterday. We had a little, I wouldn't really call it a fight. We needed some clarification because we may have triggered each other. You know? I asked Sarah if I could talk to her. I called her, asked her a question. She gave me an answer that I didn't think answered the question. So then I asked the question again, and I kept saying, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking this. And I triggered her, you know, and then she got upset and told me how she was triggered, and now I'm triggered. It was like a pinball of trigger hell.
Yeah.
And I was angry. I'm like, I don't understand why she's upset. I called her for a question. She's not answering the question. So of course I'm going to keep repeating myself. But the thing is, you know, we didn't hide the fact that we were triggered. We talked about it.
And we didn't take it out on each other.
Yeah, we didn't.
And I just want to say,
she acknowledged that
I was activated.
She was activated, but
I didn't blame you.
Yeah, no, you didn't blame me, and I'm not blaming you. Like, there was a lot that came out of it. Actually, it was really helpful to me because there were some things going on for me that I didn't understand, and a lot of times people will say, why are you being so angry? And I don't feel angry at all, but after I dig a little deeper with them, there is a fear in there. And even though it doesn't feel like anger to me anymore, I still can come across that way to other people. And it's always been very helpful to have someone who's willing to like sit with it. And I know that's not easy for everybody. If somebody seems really angry, a lot of people shut down from that, especially if you grew up in homes with violence or whatever. I had one parent who got angry and lashed out and hit their kids, and the other parent who got angry repressed it, like Sarah was talking about, and didn't talk to anyone. And to be honest with you, I'd rather get punched
Welcome to my home.
Right. You know?
Right. Isn't that odd? I had one super angry parent and one that was just drunk all the time. So, literally, that is so interesting to me that we both have these extreme situations. So how are we supposed to learn that it's okay to feel anger? It's just not okay to take it out on people, right? So
anger.
To feel it.
Feel it.
Yes.
Not act in anger. And that's the thing that I think is so scary is that we witnessed
Well,
people respond to anger, feel angry feelings or hurt feelings in ways that weren't safe.
That's right. And I think what happens as kids is we think if we feel it, we're going to act out. We're going to either hurt someone or hurt ourselves.
I literally would freeze sometimes when I got mad because I was so afraid. I hadn't learned to feel the feelings and let them out. I either repressed them or like held on so tight that made it even more scary because I would explode.
Yeah, and I want to say something else to the codependents out there, and you may not believe me, but very often anger can be externalized or internalized. And internalized is really dangerous.
Yeah.
So very often I've been sitting with clients and stuff, and they have this super critical voice of themselves, or they're beating themselves up at themselves about some issue. And I say, you know what? And this is going to sound strange. It might be easier to be angry with yourself than it is actually to feel the anger towards the appropriate person. So sometimes if you're someone who immediately blames themselves or starts beating yourself up, I want you to think about, should this anger actually be directed or felt towards someone else? Is it just easier, or is it a pattern of behavior that I've taken it out on myself? Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually was just thinking of a story about my wife, and when we first started living together, she had gotten divorced from her husband. They were good friends, and they've been married like 30 years, and she'd always made meals. So she moved in with me, and I worked off Cape. I didn't really think anything about it. I was gone all day, and I would come home. And I remember coming home this one day, and she is clearly like rage cooking, chopping. And I have no idea what's going on. I've been away all day.
Rage.
And she's telling me, like, I don't have time to cook you dinner. And she was running home and cooking her ex-husband dinner, and then coming to my house and cooking dinner. And by the time I got home, she was really upset. But she would never say, or like, this was codependent behavior. She felt like he couldn't take care of himself. And let me tell you something, when she said she wasn't going to cook for him anymore, he was like, thank God. And what I said to her was, look, I didn't ask you to make dinner for him or me, and I'd rather you not cook dinner if I have to come home to rage dinner. But it was like she wouldn't acknowledge that she was rageful, and we ended up having a discussion, and I pushed and pushed and pushed until she exploded in the kitchen. And she was yelling and screaming at me, and I was just smiling, which of course anybody who's been mad made her even more upset. But after she was yelling at me, I said, now doesn't that feel better? And she started laughing. She goes, well, I do feel better. And I'm not saying that that's where to go, but if you're somebody who's repressed it for so long and it needs to come out, find a safe. I was safe for her to let it rip. And like the laughter that came and the freedom, like you could tell she'd been hanging on to this stuff for so long. Right. And it's not, my sponsor always told me, like, you should never be yelling at anybody. No one should be yelling at you. But, if there's a safe scenario where you're a repressor and you can get it out.
You're venting not at someone, you're just sharing some of your anger with someone safe. That's a different story.
Right.
But you made me think of, with your wife, is that codependency, one of the huge consequences of being codependent this is a great example. I feel like I have to go over my ex-husbands and cook dinner, but really I'm creating it and I'm enraged about it. So one symptom of codependency is we do things to care for others and fix others, but we're enraged about it. And then we take it out on people. So that is really, really important to think about.
I was at a meeting this morning, and you choose to go to the meeting, and someone said, I have a resentment against everyone for having me share so early because I'm sleepy. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I thought, well, if he's so mad at us because we're going around the room and everybody's sharing, like, don't go in the room. Nobody made you share this early, It's just funny how we interpret things that, like, people are doing stuff to us. So we want to recognize that it's our stuff.
We're responsible.
What's going on for me? And yeah, it's okay to be fearful and angry and, have these feelings. Not be, because that's the other thing. I used to think I was the emotion.
Right.
Feel the anger. Yes. Feel the fear. And don't take it out. It's no one else's fault. I'm not saying there aren't bad behaviors.
Yes.
People have done bad behaviors in my presence, and I, don't like it. But but that I'm responsible for how I act.
For the
and
well, we're responsible for
respond
the
to
response.
things.
Right.
So I want to respond and not react, which
Yes.
is, you know, we're always going to go to the pause, just notice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And look at, like Finn says, if you're having a big anger response, it's usually not about the present moment. So you can feel your anger, but then do some work around what Finn was saying. What am I afraid of? What does this remind me of? Like if you're in a dynamic with someone, very often, you know, you can get activated, but something comes up, something reminds you of someone else, or someone, like when Finn said to me, "You're not listening to me," that actually activated something in my childhood. So it really, my activation wasn't about Finn. I was feeling anger, but it was about the past. So we're gonna wrap this up. Tools, just notice your feelings, try to pause, look at, either do some writing or call someone and look at, am I hurt? Is this an old wound being activated? Am I afraid? You know, you were talking about that driving, like getting mad driving.
Oh
if
yeah,
someone
somebody
cuts
cut
you
me off and now I get like, you know, you get mad instantly. And I laugh now because I know, I was like, oh, I got fearful. Because I know every time Finn gets angry, it's fear.
Right.
It's like, hands down, I go from fear to anger in a half a second.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I try not to react on it. And you know what? It's okay. Like,
It's okay.
any of you codependents out there that are full of rage because you agree to do things you don't want to do, you
Yes.
take on stuff that you don't want to do, I guarantee you, if you can sit with the uncomfortable feeling of saying no, or
Yes.
I'd rather not, or not today, and you choose yourself, and
Yes.
you can sit with that uncomfortable feeling,
Yes.
the freedom that you'll feel later on
Yes.
is, I mean, that I
Limitless.
only know that experience from walking through it.
Yes.
And it, you know, Sarah and I talk about this, like saying no or setting boundaries or asking for what you need is easy. We know it isn't. But it doesn't get easier if you don't ever try it.
That's right.
Like, literally, you won't get to feel that freedom until you do it.
One step at a time. We're leaving. Fasten your seatbelt. We're out of here.